command and you'll be able to install that in a Git. Just type yes because it's a key establishment. Yeah, all done. So now we got that in there is a two task and both are completed and one changes. So one is ping and another one is a install. So if I'll go and run in place one more time, it will say that in the Git is already installed and there is no further operations on that. Yeah. So same thing, all packages provided Git are up to date and in which server? This is our web server. So let me go in, log into the web server. Here we go, Git hyphen v, okay, hyphen versions. Here we go, we got the Ansible roles. So what is Ansible role? A set of related playbooks, templates and other files organized in a predefined way to facilitate reuse and share. Ansible role directory structures, and if you create a Ansible role manually, that name of the role is needed and you can place that in a like in any folder name. I have just put that in, or like it's the best way to place that in inside that in roles. If that is a custom, or it will be there in you know uh, /etc Ansible /roles. So let's talk in like in a common one. So I just created name of the role as a common, and which is mandatory, and under the task there is a main file, main.yml file. So name of the role and task and main.yml is mandatory if you are going to create a custom one. Handlers, templates, file, bars, default and meta, that is optional. But if you're going to use, you have to use that in handlers, then main.yml, templates, then name of the template is needed, files, then name of the file, vrs, then main.yml, default.main.yml, and sub files you can include that in yml file. So description, so you can read it like in common. This is the hierarchy represent a role. Task file can include a small or files if wanted, and handler files for use with the template resource and template, and in the j2 is a Jinja 2 template. On files, we can include the multiple files for different purpose. Let's say like in ss .sh file for escape purpose, text file for like in use that copy resource from one locations to another locations. Similarly, we can declare that in vrs under the variables associated with these roles, and default lower priority is variable for this role, and then meta role dependency. So once we'll create that in a role, so these are the folder structures and files is needed. Then you have to include that in that folder structures and directory. Let's move forward and just make sure under the roles, task and main.yml is mandatory one. So I just created that in one a small role, which is the git. So I want to install the git into that in our web server, and for that we have a default meta task template file and test and vrs, but only I have like in the details in task main.yml, rest of that are like in blank. So let's go and do that in demo and then we'll talk more. So first thing first, I have to log in into that in Ansible server, which is 192.168.10.5, and web server we have a 192.168.10.6, and these are the command we have to perform. So let me go and do that, copy that command and open the terminal. So I have already provisioned the two servers, two VMs, and both VM is up and running. We can cross check it from virtual box. Yeah, so Ansible web server and Ansible control server both are up and running, and I'm going to log in into that in Ansible control server, which is 0.51, and now I'm in that in Ansible control server. So this is the command I'm using because it's checking the key, so I just added the ssh hyphen o stick host key checking is equal to no, and then name of the user vagrant and at the rate of IP address of a Ansible server. So I'm in that in Ansible server now. What is next command? Cd forward slash vagrant, and then we can see that in mapping directory. So we have a example like in vagrant file, and one folder I have created. Let me go and see that. So here we have a vagrant file. With help of that I have provisioned the two servers. One is the Ansible server. We talk on this ones in more. In already talked in the previous lecture, and one of the web server. Now what we have inside that, we have a different examples, and we are going to see on these ones. So I have like in playbook, and that playbook, we have a roles called Git, and then we have a host file. In host file we have defined that in as a web server for web server IP address, and then inside the role we have a Git, and under the Git all are that in there. However, in task only we have a command, rest of all are like in blank. So if you see that in what task I'm install Git, yum name Git, and latest versions I'm trying to install it. So let me go and open that in command. So I'm in that here 301, and same I'll be go to 301 underscore Ansible. So this is the like in folder structure. So I have where we have a command, and what was there in the demo. So we want to I have already logged into the Ansible control server. Then just I want to change that in ID RSA, which is private key and public key. We have already talked into that in SSH key generations. So I'll just change the permissions and then perform this command. So let me go and chmod 400 to root directory .ssh idrsa, and now I'll perform the Ansible hyphen playbook hyphen I, and then name of the host file, name of the playbook, and I want to run in a debug mode. So what will be happen? It will be go and install the Git into our web server. So let's see if we have in our web server Git already. So let me connect that in web server. Yeah, so Git is not there, or Git. So I'll go and perform this command, and we'll be able to install that in a Git. Just type yes because it's a key establishment. I have run in verbose mode, so you'll get that in more log informations. We can provide up to hyphen v 4 time, 3 time, 1 time, 2 time, and then that will be depend on that in your log. And in past already we talk on this part. So what is happening at the moment? It's trying to install the role Git and calling that, and if you see that in more details, it's doing the SSH exe SSHC something like that, and echo becomes success, meaning it's converting to the root pseudo users and trying to install that in a, download the Git, and it will be install it. Yeah, all done. So now we got that in there is a two task and both are completed and one changes. So one is ping and another one is a install. So if I'll go and run in place one more time, it will say that in the Git is already installed and there is no further operations on that. Yeah. So same thing, all packages provided Git are up to date, and in which server? This is our web server. So let me go in, log into the web server. Here we go, Git hyphen v, okay, hyphen versions. Here we go, we got the latest one. What will be happen? Let's say sudo yum. I'm just trying to uninstall from web server, and I'll again go to that in a Ansible control server and perform the command. Again it will be installed that in a Git or Git. All done, installations is done. Now again I'll go and check that in Git version. So here we go. So now we got that in a Git installations, this demo with help of a role, and uh, uh, with help of a roles, we got it. We'll talk more into that one by one in more details. So Ansible role directory structures, we talk task. So task contains the main list of a task to be executed by the role, and that is a mandatory. What we talk about that. See, a handler. So a handler contains a handlers which may be used by the roles or even anywhere outside this role. Then we have a defaults. Under the default variables, similarly we have a vars, other variables for the like in that roles and associated file. Then we have a files folder, contains file which can be deployed via this role. Then we have a templates, contains template which can be deployed via this role. And then we have a meta, define some meta data for this role. And then we have a test. So test will, we can do that in a kind of a testing, which is unit testing, and let's talk in more into that in roles. So as we like in talk, this is that in syntax start like in 3 hyphen beginning of that, or like in after that documentation. It's a syntax of a playbook, we already talked about that. Then we are just adding that in a host as a web server or web. Then the roles. So roles indicate that in hey, we have a command roles and web server roles we want to include. So like in run that command server roles or web server roles. So we at least if you include that in roles, so one of that in role is a mandatory, like in common or web or anything, then only this syntax will be valid. And again we have to make sure indentations path, so let's talk in more details. If you have a multiple roles, then what will be happen? So this designs the following behavior for each role X. Let's say we have installed Java, we install Git, install Tomcat, install httpd, and that we will convert with X. Then what happen if role X task main YML exists, task list therein will be added to the play. If role X a handlers main that exist, a handler list there within added to the play. If roles dot X VRs main exist, variable listed therein will be added to the play. Similarly, if role X defaults main dot Y exist, variable listed within will be added to the play. If role X meta main dot exist, then role depends dependency listed there within that in added to the list of role. Any copy, skips, template or include task in the role can refer files in role.xml file template and task. and dir dependency on task without having to path them relatively or absolutely. This is the crowded one, but just we have to replace that in x with any role, and then you can understand it, the files and folders and their uses. What happened, like in for especially in this ones, I want to talk about the pre-task, post-task, and then in between role and handler. So if we have a any pre-task defined in the play, and any handlers triggers so far will be run, then each role listed in the row will be executed in turn. Any task defined in the play, any handlers trigger so far will be run, and any post underscore task defined in the play, and then any handlers trigger so far will be run. So this is that in the hierarchy, pre-task, handlers, role, task, handlers, post task, and handlers again. So so why we use that in pre-task and post-task? Because sometime while doing that in software provisioning, we need to do that in kind of testing. Like let's say for before installing that in any software, I need a 1 GB of disk space, 4 GB of RAM, and so forth. We can perform that activity inside that in pre-task. Then we can include that in roles, like hey, can you go and do install this software. And then post task activity like service up, quick test, sending uptime notifications, and many other activity like that, we can include that in a post task. And so that's all about for the peri task and post task in between role. Similarly, in roles we have a import role and or include role. So in a playbook we can import the any role, or like include that in any role with help of a import underscore role and include underscore role command. Then that will be added that in that playbook. You know so after that, we have a debug. We'll talk in bit. Okay. So let's talk. So debug will be print message on console. So just we want to consider, hey, this is the before we run our role, and this is the after we ran our role. So that activity just will it will print that in console, Ansible console. And import role and include role depend on the Ansible version. So just check 2.4 onwards that is supported both. And if there is any concerns, you can just cross check with Ansible version whatever you have. Now we have Ansible inside the roles, or like in playbook we have a tags. So in the tags is used for grouping and use at the time of a Ansible playbook. So with help of that we can identify, hey, this is that in tag we want to perform the just restart, or like say install the Ansible, or web server, database server, and that activity only it will perform. So at the executions, just we have to pass that in hyphen tag and name of the tag in double inverted comma, then it will be executed. So once we will be define the role, by default it will be there under that in forward slash etc forward slash Ansible forward slash roles. And if you are going to use that in a custom one, we can define that in our roles directly, and that directly can be used it. Similarly, we have a thousands plus of roles in Ansible Galaxy. So that is a we can say that repository of all roles are provided by that in and supported by the Ansible and open source, and it's freely available for like users. So we can create our own custom roles and register and post into the Ansible Galaxy, or we can keep our own registry, or like in place it. Just a registry is a repository, or like in any file server where we can keep it and reuse it. And another way is like in thousands of like Galaxy, we have Ansible roles under the Ansible Galaxy website. So let's go and see. So this is the Ansible okay. So before that, I'll include that in Ansible roles related like link. You can go through that and understand a bit more of whatever I have not covered it. Second one, we have a Ansible Galaxy. You can navigate with a galaxy.ansible.com, and most popular like in they have wrote that in roles for system monitoring, development, packaging, networking, playbooks, bundle, security, cloud, database, and web. We can download that, share, and features. So we'll see this ones in a upcoming lecture. And what left so far? Okay, so we already talked about that in a display on host become roles and role git. So git has been installed, and then we talk about that in under roles and a host as well. And I'll do, I'll just include that in all files and folder 301, and these ones I'll attach. Just you download that and then place that in an Ansible to web server along with a vagrant, and then you will be able to run these ones what I have did that. So that's all about in this lecture, and thanks for watching.